we're gonna start on page 18 of the sacrificing for fun and profit notes. We covered the first few pages last week, and we're going to pick up here, starting talking about what constitutes offensive values as opposed to defensive values. Making a judgment on your hand about whether it's mostly good for offense or defense goes into making the decision on whether to double or bid on or pass. So I've got some examples here to show you how to go about making the decision. Here's a good old competitive auction. Your opponent, South, opens one spade. West bids 2 hearts here. North raises his partner, and East gives you a Q-bid raise in spades. Notice that a Q-bid raise in spades here are forces to gain. East has forced to gain over your overcall. But South says, I don't care. I don't care. I'm bidding 4 spades. So there. He's got the master suit and he's causing problems for you. What to do, what to do. Now, we've all heard the saying, the 5 level belongs to the opponents. And sometimes that is absolutely true. But you have to look at your hand and decide how you're going to proceed. Your first choice is to pass. Now, East's 3-spade Q-bid forces East-West to the game level. So if West chooses to pass, it's forcing. He says, I don't know what to do here, partner. You forced me to game, but I can't tell whether it's right to bid on or to double. This is the pass the buck pass. In essence, you're deferring the judgment to your partner because you don't know. This pass says to partner, you must either bid 5 hearts or double. One of the two, because you forced me to game. That means the opponents are sacrificing. And I need to have your help and your input on what the right decision is. Choice number 2 is to double. If you choose to double the opponent's contract, that tells partner that you have values that are good for defense. When you take this action instead of bidding on, that means that your hand you think will do better defending the opponent's contract rather than bidding your own suit further to 1 level higher. Now, what are offensive values as opposed to defensive values? Well, when you have your high card points mostly in your suit, particularly if you have extra length in your suit, that tends to be offensive. If you have a long suit and partner has supported it, that means the opponents don't have very many of them and you're not likely to get more than 1 trick in that suit. Somebody probably has a singleton if they have decided to sacrifice. If you have a distributional hand so that you can make use of your long trump suit, and by distributional, I mean something like 6-4-2-1. I don't mean 6-3-2-2 necessarily. That's a semi-balanced hand. I'm talking about 6-4-2-1 or 6-4-3-0, something like that. And if you have shortness in the opponent's suit, that is a really good sign that your hand would be a good one for offense, for declaring the contract, playing the contract. That means that you don't have much in the way of defense against the opponent's suit if they were to play it. In other words, your points are all in your suit. You have a long suit, you have a distributional hand, and you have shortness in their suit. Now, contrast that with defensive values. Maybe you have high card points in the opponent's suit. If you have a balanced hand, in general, you will choose to defend. Balanced hand almost always indicates defending. And if you have any kind of length or controls in the opponent's suit, you should tend to lead toward defending, which means you would double rather than passing or bidding on. What does a balanced hand mean? Well, it means you probably have 2 or 3 of their trumps, and maybe you've got a 5-3-3-2 hand. 5-3-3-2 hands are not they're a balanced hand, and they are really not very helpful in terms of trying to rough out losers when they're that balanced. If you have a sufficient number of your points in the opponent's suit rather than in your own suit or side suits, that might indicate defending as well. And now choice number 3, bidding on. Bidding on would tell your partner, hey, my hand is better suited to play this hand. I don't have much in the way of defense against the opponent's suit. I can't take, I mean, I've got tricks in our suit, but I don't have much in theirs, and they're liable to be short in our suit. So I think we're better off to bid on. Now, if you double, partner can always overrule your choice. He may look at your double and say, ooh, my hand is useless on defense, partner. This might be the hand that has 5-card trump support and a lot of shape. My hand is definitely more useful to you if we play the contract. In that case, partner might overrule you and pull your double to bid on. That is acceptable. This is a partnership game. So, and don't get mad at your partner if he does that and it doesn't work out. Nobody bets 1,000 in this game. Absolutely nobody. So now, in the particular sequence that we were talking about, the right choice is double here, because notice West's hand is fairly balanced. He has length and support and an honor in the opponent's suit, and he also has a singleton. He can take a trick, and then he has small trumps here for roughing some clubs. He will most likely lead his singleton. Partner gave him a limit raise. So he has enough values that he should be able to get the lead and give me a ruff. We ought to be able to get a heart trick, a spade trick, a ruff, and at least one trick from a side suit to set this puppy. Does everybody see why the choice here might be to double rather than bidding on? Values in the opponent's suit, a roughing value and small trumps to use on it, and a partner who has enough values to take tricks to give you roughs. That's an important consideration. He gave you a limit raise or better. By choosing to bid, and you almost have to think that this is or better, because he forced you to game. 3-spade Q bid, you don't have a choice. You have to bid 4 hearts here after he does that. Trouble is, South bid 4 spades, so you can't bid 4 hearts. Now you're in no man's land here. Do I bid 5? Do I double? Do I go on? I think this hand rates to be most successful by doubling this contract. That doesn't mean I'm right. I don't bat 1,000 with these decisions. What is Wes thinking about when he does that? Well, he doesn't have any extra length in his suit. He has exactly the number that he promised. He has a singleton. And he has a high honor in the opponent's suit. It gives them time to get a club ruff. In other words, he has a way, if he leads that singleton king of clubs, he has a way to get back in with the ace of trumps and lead a heart to his partner, who will hopefully then be able to give him the club ruff. That should encourage him to double here. Those are the kinds of things that you need to look at if you're thinking about offensive values versus defensive values. Another thing that you want to think about when you're considering whether to bid on in a competitive situation is, what does the law of total tricks tell me? I think you guys have heard me say 9 trumps bid to the 9 trick level at 1,000 times. But a while back, one of the more famous pairs in bridge lore, Marty Bergen and Larry Cohen, developed this law of total tricks. Now, this is called a law, but it's not really a law. It's like a lot of stuff, it's a guideline. And it says basically that on each deal, there are a certain number of tricks available. Simply stated, on most bridge hands, notice the most is in capital letters there. The total number of tricks available will be equal to the total number of trumps, approximately. Approximately, that's the operative word. So, well, that's a nice theory, but how does it help if you're in a competitive auction? Well, if you hold 8 trumps between you, you can be pretty comfortable bidding to the 8 trick level or the 2 level. If you hold 9 trump, don't be afraid to compete to the 3 level at all. Just do it. You know, if you have a single raise for your partner, then give him the single raise the first time. But if the auction is competitive and comes back around to you and you have to decide whether to bid on, if you have that 4th trump, just pull out the 3 level on your agreed upon suit and put it on the table. If your partner's overcalled, you know he has 5. If he's open to major, you know he has 5. If you have only the values for a single raise, but that you have 4 of them, then you can take that bid again. Later on, you'll learn to use mixed raises to tell partner that you have what it amounts to a constructive raise, but have 4-card trump support. But in the meantime, just raise to the 2 level. And if the auction gets competitive and the opponents decide, well, hey, they found a fit and they stopped in the 2 level, I need to push them a little higher, then feel free to take the push. If you hold 10 trumps, bid to the 4 level. It's as simple as that. Now, this doesn't mean that you check your judgment at the door. You have to take some things into consideration. If you know that you and partner have the points for game or slam, don't worry about the total number of tricks, just bid it. The most useful application of the law of total tricks is in a competitive auction. And remember that colors matter. Marty Bergen always said that colors are for children. Well, I think colors matter. If you're vulnerable and the opponents are not, you need to take that into consideration. If I played like Marty Bergen, I might say that too, but I don't. And until the point that I get to the level where I can play the way he did, then I'm going to take colors into consideration. If your hand is very flat, or if you think your values are bad positionally, in other words, if you're sitting in front of somebody who's bid a suit where you have some points, like if you have the king jack in that suit, then you might want to say, ooh, I think my hand is not quite as good as it looked initially, and you might want to adjust it. But here is the big thing to remember. When you're in a competitive auction, if it looks like to you from the bidding that the opponents have only 8 trump between them, don't let them play at the 2 level. Or as my partner Joe says, I never surrender to 110. That's his motto. He does not like to let anybody play at the 2 level whatsoever. That includes 2 spades. When it comes to bidding on, he's pretty fearless. And you know what? It's a winning tactic. Most of the time, it's a winning tactic. Here's an example. On this deal, we're going to see if we can decide who can make what. This is applying the law of total tricks. East opens a club here. This hand is not a thing of beauty, but I would probably open it too because I have a rebid. South overcalls a diamond. West used our old friend, the negative double here. Everybody remembers in this auction that shows at least 4 cards in the major suits. And at the 1 level, promises only 6 points. That pretty well describes West's hand, doesn't it? North says, well, hey, I like your diamonds. I've got 4-card support here for you. You overcalled. I don't have anything else to mention. I don't want to bid no trump. So I'm going to raise you to 2 diamonds here, partner. You've got 5, I've got 4. I'm pretty confident in that. Now, East says, oh, of the 2 majors, I definitely like spades. I'm going to bid spades. 2 spades by me. South says, oh yeah, well, 3 diamonds. So there, I've got some shape. If I'm in the South seat, I definitely am going to bid 3 diamonds because I strongly suspicion that the spades are in a 4-4 fit. I don't know it for sure. You can see that West has 5 spades, but I'm thinking it's a 4-4 fit. And besides that, I don't want to sell out to the 2 level, especially when I'm short in spades. And my partner raised my diamonds, so I'm pretty confident that he has at least 3. So I'm thinking 3 diamonds sounds good to me. Now, what should West do? Well, West knows that there's a 9-card fit here. And he's thinking, I think maybe I ought to compete a little further here. I'm kind of weak, but I know there's a 9-card fit. And even if we go off a trick, I think that's better than letting them make 3 diamonds. And I suspect that they can make 3 diamonds. I mean, this is not a thing of beauty. This hand here is just not wonderful, not worth a whole lot unless there's a major suit contract being played. So if I'm sitting West, I'm probably going to bid 3 spades. Now, and then it'll come around to North again. So how can we figure this out? Well, on this hand, if you notice, the East-West hands are relatively balanced. That means they may have 9 trump between them, but notice that they can take only 8 tricks. They just cannot take 9 tricks because mainly the West hand is a bit weak. Does that mean that bidding 3 spades is a bad idea? No, it doesn't. If they go off 1 trick, even vulnerable, that's 100 points. 3 diamonds is 110. At match points, who gets the better score? Somebody who gave the opponents 110 or somebody who gave them only 100? Obviously, it's the pair that gave them only 100. So 3 spades looks like a winning call here for East-West. But now let's look at the North-South hand. North's hand is very balanced. But notice that South has a singleton in the opponent's suit because the 4 outstanding trump broke 3-1, as they normally will. They have 3 fast heart losers that they can't do anything about. But notice they only have 3 losers in their hands because South's hand has shape. Now, if West bids 3 spades here, it'll go pass, pass. And if the bidding comes back around to me, I'm going to look at this hand and I'm going to say, I have very little defense against 4 spades. They have bid and raised, and West took the push to 3 spades, making me think that he has 5 of them, not 4. So they have bid to the level that the law of total tricks tells them they should. And I'm going to look at my hand and say, well, you know what? My hand is shapely. I have the ideal holding in the opponent's suit, a singleton ace. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. Plus, my suit is better than my partner has the right to expect. And my hand has full value for even a 2-level overcall. I have a full opening hand here. So if I'm sitting in the South chair, I take the push to 4 diamonds. Hopefully that will work. Now,
Sue, we have a question on the floor when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, when you evaluated West hand, you said negative double
Yes.
points and 4 of each of the unbid majors.
Yes, at least 4. Yes.
5 points. Are you counting the 2 diamonds and the 2 clubs in your point count?
No, what I'm counting here is, I know I have only 5 high card points, but I'm giving myself an extra link point for spades.
Okay,
My partner opened a club. I think that probably indicates that he has at least one 4-card major. But I don't have a snowball's chance of guessing which one it is.
okay,
So in this case, I'm giving him the choice, saying, I don't care. If you happen to have a 4-card major, please tell me which one it is.
okay. Because you know that you have 5 of one major and 4 of another. So you
Yes.
get, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Notice, Pat, you bring up an interesting point. If I had more points, I would bid spades first and then hearts. But this is turning into a competitive auction. And I'm afraid by the time it comes back around to me that I'm not going to be able to mention the hearts if we happen to miss on the spades. And the negative double pretty well describes this hand. It gets my whole hand across in one bid. Normally, when you have 5 spades and 4 hearts, you will bid the spades first. But this hand is pretty weak, and it is described well with the negative double, because after my partner chooses one, unless I'm forced to, as I was in this auction, I'm going to pass. But knowing that my partner chose spades here now, see, this is the advantage I have. If I bid a spade first, if partner has only 3 of them, he's not going to raise. He may pass. And then here, where are we? But now I know that he has 4 spades and I have 5. So I feel comfortable pushing to the 3 spade level, even though I know it's probably not going to make unless partner has a better than average opening hand. I'm doing it anyway.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Okay. Now then, 3 spades. Does anybody else have a question about any of that? Gloria, do you have anybody else with their hand up?
Well, no, but I did have a question. A couple of them are a little bit lost when we talk about losers, and I told them that I would send you a note about down the road. We'll talk about how to count your losers.
Okay. Well, basically, we count only the ace, king, or queen in a suit. And you only count say for instance here, if East were going to count his losers, he would count the ace, king, and queen in spades, and he has king, so he counts 2 here. He would count 1 loser in hearts because he doesn't have the queen, he has the jack. He would count 2 losers in diamonds, and he would count only 3 losers in clubs. Because many times, if you have a 4th round card in a suit, it will be a winner. That's why we count only 3 rounds. So he would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 losers in this hand, which is rather many for an opening hand. Most of them have only 7, but I never count losers when I'm deciding whether to open. I do it when I'm trying to decide how high to bid sometimes, but I never do it when I'm deciding whether to open. That in a nutshell is how you count losers, and you count them from the long trump hand always. Now, back to this hand. If you notice, North South have 9 trump between them, and North knows this. But they can take 10 tricks. They can take 10 tricks due to the unbalanced nature of the South hand. That's one reason he chooses to bid on. His hand is unbalanced, and that will generally make it more suitable for offense rather than defense. I will take the push here. It may not be right. I mean, East West may have pushed me 1 level too high. That's what opponents do. They try to push you. They don't like to let you play in comfortable contracts. But as the cards lie, you can see that I cannot be kept from losing only 3 tricks, and it's the 3 heart tricks that the opponents have. Notice they have no tricks in their suit because I have the singleton ace. I don't have length, but I have a control, and after that I have 5 trumps in my hand to control the spade suit. So I will take the push to 4 diamonds and hope that I can make it. But this is how the law of total tricks works. I know you've all seen hands where, well, east-west can make 4 hearts, but north-south can make 4 spades. How can that be? It can be because of situations just like this. Usually one side will be more distributional than the other, and that will explain why they can make a game, but the other side can also make a game. All right. Now we've been talking about bidding in a competitive auction, but I think most of you will recall late last summer, we talked about bidding in the balancing seat. This is good. This is coming up again here by way of review. Now, when your opponents open and respond, but they stop at a low level because they found a fit, if you let them play in that nice, comfortable contract, that's not winning bridge. The opponents will be delighted to play at the 2 level if you let them. If they find a fit and they don't go any further, you should assume that they hold 20 or 21 points. Now, bearing in mind that there are only 40 points in the deck, that means you have just as many points as the opponents do. And if they found a fit, chances are you can find a fit. So what many pairs do is say, well, I'm not going to sit still and allow this. I don't like that. I'm going to see if I can't force them higher. Now, just to be clear, the balancing seat is the pass out seat. In other words, if you pass, the auction is over. That's what it means. For instance, 1 diamond, pass, pass. If east passes, south plays 1 diamond. Now, in the balancing seat, what you can do is borrow a king from your partner's hand and take a call. So if you have as few as 10 high card points and shortness in the suit that was bid by the opener, you can use a takeout double. Now, how does partner know that you've done that? Well, he doesn't know for sure yet, but he should go on the assumption that you have borrowed a king in order to bid, because you either did that or you have a hand that is too strong to bid anything in the balancing seat. Most of the time, it will be the weaker hand. That's just the nature of this game. And he should not hang you out to dry for balancing. In other words, he shouldn't get carried away. Now, if you don't have the right shape for a takeout double, then you can bid a suit at the 1 level with anywhere from 8 to 15 points. 8 points, that's a little bit light maybe, but I would not worry about overcalling at the 1 level with 11 high card points, certainly. And if I'm going to borrow a king from my partner's hand and I have 8 points in my hand, that makes it 11, right? So I would bid at the 1 level in this chair with only 8 points. Now at the 2 level, you need to have more. Remember, overcalling at the 2 level requires or should require the opening hand or an equivalent. So you need to have 10 high card points. So if you borrow 3 from your partner, you have 13. And that's a non-jump bid. In other words, you're forced to the 2 level to bid there. If you have more than 15 points, double first. This is the way you show the strong hand, whether overcalling in the direct seat or the balancing seat. Remember, with takeout doubles, sometimes your takeout double isn't really a takeout double at all. It's the big double. I have a hand that's too big to overcall, partner, per our agreements. We've agreed, say that our overcalls are going to show 8 to 17 high card points. Well, I've got 19 high card points. That means I have too much just to bid over the opener. So I start with a double. Well, you do the same thing here in the balancing seat. with 16 or more points, double first, then bid your suit. If you have a 6-card suit and 12 to 14, 15, 16, somewhere in there, jump to the 2 level. That shows that kind of hand. And if you have a whole bunch of tricks in your hand, say a long suit with 7-ish cards, and 8 tricks, what you basically want to do is bid 1 level higher than the number of tricks you have. If you can look at your hand and see 8 tricks, bid to the 9-trick level, going on the assumption that surely partner has at least 1 trick, but take it from me, that is not always a good assumption. I have made that assumption on more than one occasion, only to find my partner with absolutely nothing. But most of the time, they will have a little something. This is what you do in this kind of situation. These things right here show what you can do so that you don't let Sal play 1 diamond. Sometimes South may have opened on a 3-card diamond suit and his partner is absolutely broke and can't do anything for him and can't take a bid, and maybe he's only got 2 diamonds in his hand. He might not be able to make 1 diamond. But if they're that weak, chances are you can make something. Now, do you know at this point whether South was planning to jump to 2 no trump on his next bid? No, you don't. You don't know. You have to use your best judgment and take a shot based on what your judgment is looking at your hand. Maybe partner has a very nice hand over there and doesn't have enough points to overcall 1 no trump, doesn't have a 5-card suit, no suitable bid, he had to pass. This is why you don't worry about passing in the direct seat if you have an opening hand but no suitable bid. If you and your partner have talked about this situation and he has at least 7, I know people who balance with 6 or 7 points. That's a little bit thin for my taste, but I will do it with 8 always. If you can count on your partner to reopen the bidding there, you can still find a playable contract. Just because you have to pass the first time around doesn't mean that you're doomed to have to pass all the time. Sometimes pass is the best bid in the box. That is a direct quote from Larry Cohen. If Larry Cohen says it, I certainly can't give you any better advice than what he can give you. So remember that. If you don't have a suitable bid, pass. It often works out much better. Now, there's a special situation when you're thinking about bidding no trump in the balancing seat. It's similar in that bidding 1 no trump shows about a king less than the normal no trump overcall. So instead of 15 to 18 that someone sitting in the direct seat would show by overcalling 1 no trump, a 1 no trump call in the balancing seat shows 11 to 14. Because partner borrowed a king from your hand once again. Now, most pairs play that statement and transfers are on over this 1 no trump bid. This, of course, assumes that the opening bidder doesn't take another call, but it would be very unusual for the opening bidder to take another call at the 2 level when his partner passed. In other words, he didn't even have 6 points. So in this instance that I have shown you here, West opened a spade and South, look at this. What does this mean? Look at these points. He has 16 high card points, doesn't he? But he's sitting in the balancing seat. If he bids 1 no trump, that shows 11 to 14. Well, what am I going to do if I have a regular no trump opening? I'm going to double first. If partner bids something I like, he bids 2 clubs, well, I'm probably going to bid 2 no trump. I don't particularly want to play a minor here. But notice one thing about this hand. He has 2 honors in opener suit. He has stoppers in the opener suit. If he didn't, he'd have to find another bid. Because you don't want to overcall one no trump, even in the balancing seat, without a stopper in the opponent's suit. Now, you don't know necessarily when opener opens a club that clubs is his real suit, but you have to go with the information that you have. So if he had opened a club, well, I have stuff in clubs here. You know, I can stand a club lead. So I would still double, intending to bid no trump at my next turn. Now, if he were sitting in the north chair here instead of in the south chair, he would just go ahead and overcall one no trump, because he has the stated range for bidding one no trump here in the direct seat. But in the pass out seat, his hand is too strong. You could miss a game if you bid one no trump here and you and your partner have agreed that it's 11-14, and your partner has 10 points, you can miss a game because partner will think he doesn't have enough and he will not go to game. That's why it's important to describe your strength to your partner, because there is a difference in bidding in the pass out seat. The reason they reduce the requirements is so that you can bid in the balancing seat. Otherwise, well, number one, the bidding would be a lot less competitive. Back when I learned, virtually nobody bid in the balancing seat. But things have changed. They've changed a lot. Bidding is much more competitive than it used to be. And that includes in the balancing seat. Now, if South held 20 to 21 points, the jump to 2 no trump still shows that 19 to 21 points. Just as though he opened. Now, what you need to remember, though, is just because you can balance doesn't mean you should. If you have a lot of length and strength in the opponent's suit, then you're better off just to pass. Remember, if you double, partner's going to bid. He's going to assume it's for takeout, and he will take the double out. Definitely. If you have shortness in an unbid major, you can just almost take it to the bank that that's what your partner's going to bid. So that makes doubling not a good option.
We have a question when you get a chance.
All right. Let's just answer it right now.
All right, Pat, go ahead, please.
When you were on the previous page, when you were talking about bidding one no trump over from South's hand with 11 to 14 points, do you have to alert and say 11 to 14? Because
No, only the one no trump opening ranges have to be announced.
Okay, so when one no trump is the second bid, you don't have to put in ranges.
That's right. The one no trump overcall is not in blue on your card, and neither is the balancing no trump. The reason for that is that virtually everybody uses the same ranges for those bids, but for one no trump openers, there are all kinds of ranges.
Okay.
They're 10 to 12, 12 to 14, 14 to 17, 15 to 18. I mean, there are just all kinds of ranges. And remember, there are no secret bids in bridge. So that's why the ACBL wants us to announce the one no trump opening ranges. Now, certainly if your opponent asks you, smile sweetly and tell them. But you are not required to announce anything but a one no trump opening, not overcall. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All righty.
I would add to that if the defender, if you need to know, ask.
Yeah.
And if you don't need to know, don't ask.
Yeah. Sometimes one of the partners has forgotten. And if you ask a question, you may alert him to the fact that he has forgotten, and then he will remember. So if you have no need to know, if in other words, it does not affect your next call, then just let it go and ask at the end of the bidding. That's why when the opening leader is getting ready to face his card, he turns it face down and he asks his partner, questions, partner? That's when you ask the question. That's why we ask that question. Or if the opening leader has a question, he does it before he makes his opening lead. That's what that little interval in there is for, and why a lot of people don't understand. Why do we say any questions, partner? It's because that's the appropriate time to ask if you had any. Now, back to what I was saying before, if you have shortness in an unbid major, or if you have length and strength in the opener suit, that may indicate that the hand is a misfit. And if the hand is a misfit, you want to let your opponents play it. It seldom pays to insist on playing a misfit. So look at your hand and do the best you can to make a good decision there. Now, the important part of almost any situation, be it a new convention or any kind of bid, is, well, all right, that's well and good, but what does my partner do when I have balanced? Well, the short answer is bid the same way you would if your partner had opened the bidding, except add 2 to 3 points to all the required ranges. Assume that your partner borrowed 2 or 3 points from your hand, and add that number of points into your hand to make any planned response that you want to make. Now, obviously, if your partner has doubled and you have a terrible hand, you're going to have to bid anyway. Doesn't matter. You're still on the hook to bid. He may have a great big hand over there. And so he had to double first. So basically, the responder bids just as he would have if partner opened the bidding, except he needs to have more points, for instance, to give a limit raise when partner has balance than he does if partner opened the bidding. Now, does balancing, is there any difference in how you need to think when the opponents have found a fit and when they haven't? And as you can imagine, it definitely does make a difference. Here's an example of when you might want to balance when the opponents have found a fit. If West opens a heart, East opens a heart, and then there's 2 passes to you. Here's that good old 1 heart, 2 hearts, pass, pass. They found a fit, they stopped at the 2 level. If I'm North, I'm sitting there thinking, I don't think so. I don't want to let you play there. North could pass and let the opponents play in their nice, comfortable 8-card fit. He has the option of doubling. Now, in the pass out seat, you can double for takeout when you can support at least 2 suits. So in this case, North would double. He can support diamonds and he can support spades. Clubs, not so much. He doubles. Come on, partner, have 4 spades. I'd like to play at the 2 level. East passes and look at the South hand. Of course he bids 3 clubs. We knew that was probably going to happen, didn't we? And so North needs to swallow hard and say, oops, missed. 3 diamonds. 3 diamonds. This is not forcing. Notice he passed first. This is not the same thing as doubling and then bidding a new suit. He is a passed hand. He cannot have the big double. This is a balancing double. His hand is not strong enough to double and bid a new suit. Thankfully, his partner has 3 cards in the diamond suit and they get to play an 8-card fit. Will they make it? Maybe not. But I think they're in better shape than letting the opponents play 2 hearts, a contract that they are almost certain to make. So this is the way the bidding would go. 1 heart, 2 hearts, pass, pass, double by North, 3 clubs by South. North says, uh-oh, missed. 3 diamonds. Looks like they're going to lose 1 trump, 1 or 2 clubs, one heart, one or two spades. Will they make it? Probably not, but they have to go down 3 to give the opponents more than if they had let them play 2 hearts. I think that's probably a pretty good bargain, even if they go down 2, assuming they're not vulnerable, then they've given them 100 instead of 110. Back to that old risk benefit assessment here. Now then, if you happen to be holding the minor suits and you don't want to make a choice, if you double, your partner is going to bid the unbid major. He's going to assume that's what you have. And then here you are. Here you are. You're in a contract you don't want to be in. What can you do if you have the minor suits? You can use 2 no trump. 2 no trump is used in many different occasions to show the lowest unbid suits, or in many cases, the minors. You can use 2 no trump for takeout in the balancing seat when there has been bidding. Remember, I said 1 diamond past 2 no trump shows 19 to 21. Notice there has been bidding first here. The opponents have come to a 2 spade contract and stopped bidding. This is not the same thing as when the opener bids a suit and then it's followed by 2 passes and you bid 2 no trump. That's the big old 19 to 21 point hand that's balanced with a stop in opener suit. This 2 no trump says, please pick between the minors. Partner, I can support either one. It is done following bidding by the opponents, and they have stopped at a low level. Obviously, because you can get 2 no trump in there. They have not gone above the 2 level. So when in this situation, when West balances with 2 no trump, notice he does not have hearts. He doesn't want to double because he doesn't have the unbid major. Look what his partner's going to bid if he does. Partner has 5 hearts over here. Are 5 2 fits awful? Well, no. And I think you can see here that we're going to end up playing a 7 card fit no matter what we do. But if I'm West, I'm not going to promise my partner that I have an unbid major that I don't have. He will not be happy if I double here and I don't have hearts. So I'm going to use 2 no trump and ask partner to choose. In this case, he has 3 diamonds, so he chooses diamonds and we play a 4-3 fit. This 2 no trump is not a natural bid. It can't possibly be. He's a passed hand. That's why it's used to show the minors. And it asks partner to pick. And either way, we're going to have a 7 card fit. It's not the end of the world. I think you can see that we'll lose 2 spades, we'll lose a heart, a diamond, and a couple of clubs. Are we going to make the bid? No. But the odds are really good that North and South were going to make their 2 spade bid. And if at all possible, we just don't want to surrender to the 2 level. All right, now then. The other choice that someone sitting in the balancing seat has is to just to bid his longest suit. Typically, or hopefully, it will be a 5-carder, but not always. It might be only 4 if you don't have any other choices. Now, here's an example. I've seen some of you overcall 1 spade on the first round of bidding with a suit like this. If you do that, you deserve what you get, because most of the time it will not work out well. When you're overcalling, you're not promising an opening hand. So most of your points should be in the suit you overcall. You're asking your partner to lead that suit for you. And a good partner will. What happens though if there was a better lead available and you lost the tempo advantage that you have by getting the first salvo at defense? The defenders get the first shot at setting up their suits by getting the opening lead. Sometimes when we make unwise overcalls, we give our partners a lead that does not work out well. When we have a suit like this, I am never, never, never overcalling a suit that looks like that. I just can't do it. There are too many things that could go wrong from doing it. Now, if I had a full opening hand or a big hand, and I couldn't bid no trump for some reason, say I had a singleton in it, then I might, but I'm going to have a whole lot more points than this hand has. This hand is not an obligatory bid on the first round. So West just passes. North raises to 2 hearts, and then South says, well, sounds good to me. I think we ought to play it there. And now West says, hold the phone. You're not getting off that easily. Now, this is okay. Partner will know this is either only 4 cards or it's a ratty suit, one of the two. I didn't do it on the first round, but I'm not going to let them play 2 hearts. So he jumps in and bids 2 spades. Well, he finds his partner with 3 to the king. Is that lucky? Well, maybe. But if the opponents have a heart fit, odds are pretty good that you have a spade fit when they quit bidding at the 2 level. So even if he goes off a trick here, he's better off than letting the opponents play 2 hearts. But this is not an appropriate overcall for the first round of bidding. But in the balancing seat, it's okay. Never, 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 never let the opponents play at the 2 level when they have an 8-card fit, if you can avoid it. Does that take nerve? Oh, yes, it takes nerve. First 2 or 3 times I did it, I shook like a leaf. I could hardly take the cards out of the bidding box. Was scared to death, thinking, what am I doing bidding with this few points? But I'd been convinced by partners and teachers and other people that it was the right thing to do, so I did. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. That's all I'm going to say. Now, here's the other thing. You can balance with a 4-card suit if it's a good 4-card suit. Okay? Now then, South opens a club, North bids 2 clubs. And I'm sitting here looking at my hand, and I'm thinking 2 clubs. Yuck. Who wants to let the opponents play 2 clubs? I don't. Well, I'm thinking my partner's probably going to lead a spade unless I tell him to do something else. And I really need to bid. If you don't like surrendering to 110, you'll hate surrendering to 90 even more. And that's what 2 clubs is, 90. So West, this is a good enough suit. He's going out on a limb here. His hand is worth only 10 points, but his partner knows that he's a passed hand and it's in the balancing seat. This is a good 4-card suit. 2 hearts. And East looks at his hand and says, well, okay, I think that might work. You know, but notice he knows his partner is balancing. His partner passed the first time around. If he raises to 3 hearts, he's hanging his partner out to dry. When your partner balances, don't hang him out to dry for balancing. He has tried to push the opponents a level higher or even steal the contract in some cases. So East needs to pass despite the fact that he has a fit. If it turns out that the opponents bid on to the 3 level, then East and West have done their job. They have forced the opponents to a higher level. East, with his shortness in clubs, might consider bidding on, but most of the time won't, unless the vulnerability is good. Now then, there's something called pre-balancing. Here's an example. When you have a situation where we've had an opening bid and a single raise, and you're very short in that suit, if you have something to propose for a balance, you're the one that needs to take the action. Now, this hand has only 10 high card points in it, but it has a 6-card suit and a singleton in the opponent's suit. So rather than waiting for his partner to take some action in the balancing seat, East needs to be the one to do it. He can see a possible contract here, something that's totally playable, even if his partner only has 2 small. This is a playable suit. So he's the one that needs to take the action here. He says, uh-oh, I'm afraid that they might be going to stop in 2 spades. I'm going to prevent that. And if we don't buy the bid, then my partner knows what to lead. So he bids 3 hearts in this situation rather than waiting for his partner to do it. Look at what his partner has over here. He's a balanced hand. He has 9 points, but oh my goodness, that hand is totally square. That 4-card diamond suit is not good enough to overcall. Ace empty fourth just is that. I mean, he doesn't know that his partner has only 2 diamonds. So West is not equipped to take any action here. East is. He sees that the opponents are maybe settling in a part score contract. If they're not, they'll bid on. They won't let the interference from East stop them if they have the hand that dictates that. But he has given partner an opening lead, and he has suggested a possible place to play if they have a fit. So he bids 3 hearts here. He may make it, he may not. This is called pre-balancing because he's not in the balancing seat per se, but he is not letting the auction die at a low level. This is pre-balancing. When the opponents have shown minimum values, we don't know yet that South is minimum, but looking at this hand, we strongly think that he probably is. And his partner certainly is minimum because he got a single raise. So the player with shortness in the opponent's suit and a 6-card suit can be aggressive in the seat that is not strictly the balancing seat. Lots and lots of times there are successful contracts found this way. Okay. This begs a question. We've been talking about balancing. Everybody needs to balance. Well, there are times when you should pass after they have found a fit. South opened a spade, North bid 2 spades. I said West has significant strength. He doesn't really. He has Jack third, but he has a very balanced shape. He does not have 4 cards in the unbid major. He has no 5-card suit to bid. What's he going to do? This is a hand that suggests defending. His partner had the opportunity to bid and did not do it. That means that he's not short in the opponent's suit with a long suit of his own. And it really, really suggests that he doesn't have a lot in the way of points. There are times when it's not appropriate to balance. This is one of them. This hand is very balanced here in shape, and the points are pretty evenly distributed. This is an opening hand. He has the values to balance, but he has no call. He has no call. So in this case, if you balance, you are really, really taking a chance. Unless your partner bids clubs and with clubs and diamonds, I mean, those 2 suits are pretty much equal. If you double, you don't want to double. You don't have 4 hearts. And your values outside the heart suit really aren't anything to write home about. So this hand is just, there's just nothing to recommend it. So in this case, this is a time when I think even my partner would pass. This is not one that you would want to balance with. So what if they haven't found a fit? This is the last thing we're going to talk about here. What if they haven't found a fit? When they stop in one no trump, or they have stopped in two of a suit and maybe only a simple preference has been taken, or maybe the opener just rebid his suit, that does not indicate that they have found a fit. Balancing is risky in that situation. If they don't have a fit, you and your partner may not have a fit either. The normal action is to pass. But sometimes you have a suit in your hand that is long and that you want your partner to lead. So with this auction up here showing one diamond, one spade, one no trump, pass, what does Wes do here? He suspects that his partner is probably not going to lead a heart for it. He just by looking at his hand, he says, I bet my partner doesn't have anything in hearts to lead from. Normally he wouldn't balance here because the opponents did not find an 8-card fit. But with a 6-card suit, and notice he has a hand that's worth 10 or 11 points, and he's bidding only at the 2 level. This is a hand where you might consider balancing anyway, because you have a long suit and you don't want your partner leading the other unbid suit. Now, the other time when you might want to double for takeout is if you can support 2 of the unbid suit and your partner can respond at the 2 level. You're not forcing him to the 3 level. If you can support 2 of the unbid suits, then double for takeout. In this case, now, look at the choice here that we have. North bid a club, south bid a heart, north rebid 2 clubs. This does not indicate that there's a fit. Pass. If Wes doubles, he's got shortness in clubs. Now, look here. South bid my suit. North bid and rebid the club suit. That leaves me a choice of a doubleton spade or a 3-card fragment in diamonds. So he has to choose the 3-card fragment in diamonds. Notice that this is not a disaster. With the shortness in the suit that North bid and rebid, this makes it highly likely of finding at least a 4-3 fit. But East can't pass because he doesn't have a 4-card suit to bid. He has to bid something. And in this case, he has to bid a 3-card fragment. You know, worse things have happened. You play a 4-3 fit, that builds character, or so they say. I'm still looking for evidence of that. But sometimes it happens, and there are a lot of successful contracts that can be made that way. When I learned to play, we played 4-3 fits. I played 4-3 slams, but we opened 14-point hands. We had better hands than we do now. And that's the difference. So in summary, fighting it out around the bridge table means that you have to have good hand evaluation so that you can bid accurately to your partner. But you also have to have some judgment. This comes from table time. Learning to reevaluate your hand accurately, spending time at the table, working on what your agreements are with your partner, learning when to reopen with a double, or balancing when the situation dictates that would be appropriate, and practice using the law of total tricks in competitive situations. If you put these things into practice, you may go wrong the first few times you try, but over time, I promise you, your results will get better.